What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for being here. As you guys know, I look for the best people on the planet. Today, I found Brenden, and I'm going to try not to butcher the last name, which is Kumarasamy.
You got it, actually. Perfect.
What? Go ahead, girl. All right. So he is the founder of MasterTalk, and I have been watching his videos because they are so fun. So I cannot wait to have this conversation. And he coaches ambitious executives and entrepreneurs to become the top 1% communicators in their industry. You guys have to check it out. His YouTube channel is called MasterTalk. But let's just go ahead and get into it, Brenden. I'm so glad you're here. How are you?
Hey, life is amazing, Neena. Thanks for having me on. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I love watching you. I love it. I found your channel. I've been binge watching your stuff. So fun. Anyway, let us know a little bit more about you, Brenden, before I get into all of the fan stuff I'm watching. So go ahead. Tell us about you.
You know, it's hilarious, Neena. I never would have thought when I started MasterTalk, my mother's basement, where I'm still from, by the way, that MasterTalk was ever going to be fun. You know, public speaking is as far as fun can be, and I'm glad that we achieved that. That was the intention, so I'm glad it's working. So I'm doing something right with my life. So
yeah. That's funny because you're fun. I mean, you're really cheeky. You got a little sarcastic. You're a little, you're funny. You do all these little, like you sneeze and and then you come back on. I'm like, I love this guy. All right, tell us about you, Brenden. Except besides the mother's basement thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the most important part. But yeah, but to your point, dude, my name's Brenden. I'm the founder of MasterTalk. Like you said, I make YouTube videos on communication. I coach a bunch of executives on how to communicate ideas. But when I started Neena, that's definitely wasn't the origin story. When I was in university, I went to business school, and I did these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age were like playing basketball, like rugby, or like something, as you can tell by looking at me, I'm not really that kind of a jock. I did presentations competitively, and that's how I learned how to speak.
Oh, cool.
And then as I got older, thank you. You're like the first person ever to say that's cool. I love that.
I love that. I think it's the nerd in me, but
yeah, you're like the perfect person to intro. You like get me. It's great. Most people just go like, so what do you do? What do you do? You're like perfect. I love this. So yeah, so as I got older, I started coaching people who were younger than me, mostly students in the program, to help them with competition. So I accidentally, big word on an accident, I accidentally developed a skill on how to coach other people and how to speak. And that's what led to the YouTube channel, because I noticed that everything I was sharing with the students wasn't available for free on the internet. So that's what prompted MasterTalk.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And I love the name because it's, it's catchy. You know exactly what you're going to get when you get on there. And I was looking at some of your videos, and I realized that you really are really great at taking us fundamentally to what it means to have these talks, right? And now, as you know, being in this online space, right? Everybody and their mother is now trying to get into motivational speaking, right? So was that a challenge for you? Like, was there any fear in like being in front of a camera and like doing all that kind of stuff? How did you get through that challenge?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And since your show is called Straight Talk, no sugar added, might as well give you the straight talk. So I mean, like MasterTalk, let's start with the word first. I didn't even come up with it. One of my buddies was going through a list of names, and he just said pick that one, and I just looked up the US Patent Office, and it was a trademark. We just got lucky with that. So I didn't come up with it. The logo wasn't my idea either. Yeah, I know, we got to thank him, not me. The logo wasn't mine either. I had like 20 subscribers, and my buddy was like this French painter, literally. He literally just said, dude, you like need a logo. And I said, why? I have 20 subscribers. He's like, I'll just make you one. And then he made
20 subscribers. Why? I have 20 subscribers. Well, you don't anymore, Brenden. That's multiplied.
I definitely do not have 20 subscribers. So, and then the third piece, the sarcasm, things that you brought up. Most of those are not even my idea. It's my creative director, Danny, in the back, who goes like, hey, I know you're like sound too professionally. Why don't you do this instead? And I was like, perfect. So I just have a great team behind me. So a lot of the stuff, you think that it's so clean, but when in reality, to your point, the question that you asked, Neena, a lot of it is uncertain. And one of the big ones around the fear was, remember, I started MasterTalk when I was 22, Neena. And I started coaching CEOs when I was 22. So I had a lot of insecurity around this. Why in the world am I the person to do this, right?
Right.
So why did I overcome it? The reason I started MasterTalk had nothing to do with executives. Obviously, I love my clients, but it had nothing to do with that. I started MasterTalk because I thought if the 15-year-old girl couldn't afford me, or the 15-year-old boy who didn't have access to free tools. That's what led to MasterTalk.
Oh wow. Okay. So, and when you started Master Talk, you're right. I think that all of us go through that insecurity bit, right? Especially if you're looking at someone who's like at eight figures and you're like, why am I teaching you how to speak in public? Like, what's going on with that? Right? Especially because you were young, you were 22. So, how did you overcome that? Like, what were the tools that you used? Like, did you start to get a coach yourself or did you just kind of master this on your own? How did you get through that part?
Absolutely. A coach that I really respect named Dan Henry says this really well. He says competence leads to confidence. I think a lot of people fake confidence. They try and fake it till you make it. I'm
Mm-mm.
not big on that. I'm
Yeah.
big on earning your receipts. Like have the receipts to prove what you got.
Oh,
So
that's
for
good.
me, absolutely. So for me, I love it. I'm glad you're like my number one cheerleader. I appreciate it. You're the best.
I love you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I feel so loved today. This is great. But yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of people look at me and they go like, okay, what does this 20? Now I'm 26. Obviously, I'm much older than I used to be. Well, even if I'm still young. But I think the
Yeah.
key is a lot of people don't see the receipts. Like I've coached like 400 people on communication now,
Oh wow.
right? So it's like, so I think the key that a lot of people miss is one. Start with the person you're comfortable serving first. I got this from Ali
Mhm.
Gadet. He
That's
says,
good.
yeah, he says this so well. He says
Mm,
that when you help one person, the world gives you permission to help everyone else. So start with the person you're comfortable with. Whereas I think the problem with most people is they don't start at all. They just sit in a box and hope that expertise just comes to them.
yeah.
Whereas with me, what happened is I didn't start with CEOs. Even if I like to brag about it now, I started with 15-year-old girls. And then I
Right.
started coaching people my own age. So I was super comfortable with them because they were my age, they were my buddies. And
Right.
then I started coaching people who are a bit older, who are technology CEOs. But the reason they were CEOs was because they were in the tech space, and a lot of them are young, and they're also my buddies. And I was just coaching them for free. Like I wasn't charging them anything back then.
Right. Right.
And then that gave me the executive experience to go like, oh, these people who are like double my age aren't doing the principles that I'm teaching these 20-year-olds to do. And that's what developed the expertise over time. But that was earned, right? So my
Right.
advice is always you got to start and you got to build that confidence over time so that you build the momentum over time too.
That is so true. And there's something powerful about starting, right? Because if you don't, where is the momentum? So my question to that is, how do you start, Brendan? Right? Because there's different ways to do this, right? So you can do it in front of an audience, in front of a small crowd, on a virtual like this. So how do you recommend for people to get started? Somebody who's really afraid of speaking in public.
Absolutely, Nina. I would say the easiest thing to think about when it comes to communication is the easiest exercise that I got in the book, which is the random word exercise. So all you have
Mm,
to do is you pick a random word like smoothie, like shake, like headset, like hair, and you create presentations out of thin air. And that's really how you develop an expertise in communication. What I always like to say is if you can make sense out of nonsense, you can make sense out of anything. So if you
that's
spend
good.
5 minutes a day doing the random word exercise for a minute each, so 5 times, and you do that for a month, you'll have done it over 150 times, which means 150 times more than any of the competitors in your industry are ever willing to do it. So it's not about doing it right, it's not about doing it well, it's just about doing it more. So the first time you do it, you're going to sound like this. Like a radio is like a device, and but then over time you get really good at the exercise and you're going to be able to crush it.
Yeah, and so are you recommending that they kind of just do that throughout their day to themselves and until they get accustomed? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say pick the moment that works for you. I'll give you a couple of angles that I found have worked well in my career. So the first one is do it the first thing in the morning with yourself. Another one that works really well with families is do it with kids, nieces, and nephews. This is super fun because the
Mhm.
kids always embarrass the parents because they do it much better because they don't care about the field. They're like 5 years old, right? They
Right.
just do it. Whereas we overthink it as adults, and that's a great accountability, like over dinner too. Those are some easy ways. And then the third way you can apply it is just sending videos to your friends doing the random word exercise.
Right, right. Is that kind of like what you started doing when you were, or was it just the presentations that got you to where you are today? Like, how did you master your skills, right? Because it's one thing to do it, it's another thing to teach it, right? So, how did you start to master the skills that you needed for like all of us little people out here?
I love your nuanced question. That's such a good question, Nina. So you're absolutely right. Was the random word exercise the way that I learned communication? Definitely not. But the reason why I don't teach it my way, the way that I ran it, is I don't recommend that for 99.9% of human beings.
Mm,
I'll tell you why. Case competitions, that world I was in, most people wouldn't understand it. Even if I explained it, they wouldn't believe me. But essentially, what it is, it's kind of like the MBA for presentations. This is really hardcore. Like
Mhm.
400 people apply every year to get into this program. 80 people get into it, so it's like a 20%
Oh, wow.
acceptance
Yeah.
rate. And the reason we all did these competitions was to get jobs on Wall Street, big jobs in corporate America, because a lot of the companies, that's why these things exist, they sponsor these competitions. Walmart, Nike, IBM, and their executives come to recruit all the talent.
Mhm.
So that's what you get thrown into. So I was a part of like the most intense. I went to the world's largest case competition program school in the world, and I was the dictator of the program, as you can probably guess. I'm kind of like the Michael Jordan that nobody gives a shit about. That's the way I describe myself. We're like Michael Jordan. I don't know if you've seen The Last Dance, but Michael Jordan is like notorious for like insulting, burning his teammates into the inferno. But people know that because it's basketball. People watch that.
Right.
I did the exact same thing with my teammates. I would yell at students at 1 a.m. in the morning. I was a nut job,
Right.
but nobody cares about presentations, so I got off it. But got away with it. I mean, that was the wrong thing. But the other piece is to your question, how did I learn to teach it? So
Mm.
after I became the super intense case competitioner, I did like 50 competitions, I won a ton of them. Then I became the mentor for the new students, and I was way too intense with them at the beginning because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to coach them. So I had to reverse engineer that process, and
Right.
that's how I
Right.
learned how to teach it.
So did you learn how to teach it because you got someone to teach you how to teach it, like somebody who coached you, or you just kind of like looked at what was working and what wasn't working and just made your own program?
Absolutely. So don't. I mean, it's a beautiful question, and you're right. I'm 100% self-taught. Don't get me wrong. Today, I invest like a shit ton of money in coaches. That's why I still live in my mother's basement, just as a caveat. So I have that extra 10, 15 G's to like invest in like a dude who's doing 10
Right.
times. Right,
Smart. That's
right.
so
That's
smart.
right. That's why I do
Listen, if
that.
you could do it, Brendan, you're only 26. If you could do it, do it. Okay.
Absolutely. I
If I could
appreciate
do
this.
it, I'd do it too. So go
There you
for it.
go. Absolutely. But the other piece that I felt you asked that I'm super empathetic to is I can also understand if people can't afford a coach. That's why MasterTalk is so important to me.
Yeah.
Totally. Like 1% of people who are listening to me could probably hire me. But I'm really doing this for the 99% of people who can't. That and the reason I'm so like gun ho on this
Hmm.
is because when I was 19 and 20 when I started this game, I couldn't even afford Toastmasters. Like Toastmasters like $100 a year, and I
Right.
didn't have that money. My parents were factory workers, so I couldn't have a coach. So to your point, I had to make every mistake myself, and I was 100% self-taught. But one of the benefits of that is I was able to develop my own unique expertise,
Right.
and that's why a lot of the videos that you watched aren't really available on other YouTube channel because I
Right.
basically did it through being a practitioner.
Yeah, no, and all joking aside, though, Brendan, I really do like your content. I really, really do because you're funny and wise, yes, but also because it's different, right? I've won a couple of like public speaking competitions and stuff like that, and loved it. I went to college for it, did it, blah blah blah, whatever. But when I watch when I watch other people, let me not use names because I don't know if they'll ever be on this podcast. But when I watch other people, I'm just like, oh, next, because it could be very boring, right? You make it a lot of fun. I like that you're animated. I like that you're forward. I like that you make jokes because at the end of the day, you have to be authentic to who you are. Otherwise, you're not going to come off right. And it seems to me that it is you that you really are doing it to reach the audience and teach them something because you're teaching something. It's like, sometimes you have that creator that gives you like this elusive mirror, right? And then but you still don't understand it. Not with you. Yeah, I noticed that even with your you had a video on beginners, just for beginners, but you were giving like strategic steps on how to do that, right? And so that's really wise, and I'm really glad you're doing that. I'm sure, I mean, you have, was it 24,000 people or more, so obviously you're making an impact, right? Well, how does that feel?
Thanks, dude. First of all, you're the best. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I wish you were in my corner 2 years ago, and I thought it was a stupid idea. I mean, sorry, 3 years ago. But
When you
uh,
had
but
20 people or whatever it was, right?
literally,
Family and friends.
because to be honest, I mean, since that's where the direction you want to go into is like, when I started this thing, I was super fragile. I didn't think it was a good idea. I was kind of just making this for fun because I was doing really well financially at IBM because I got the job I won out of case competitions.
Oh, wow.
So I was doing really fine. I retired my mom and all that fun stuff. But I think the key was I really wanted to help people. So I was making these videos for fun.
Yeah.
And I was sending these videos to university professors because I thought, like, I mean, nobody has these resources. So let me just share. It wasn't even a sell. It was like, hey, can you show it to your students? They probably need it. And all of them spat in my face. All of
Mm.
them.
I bet
Almost
that's
all of
true.
them.
I bet that's true.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost all. There's obviously some exceptions that are in
Yeah.
my mind that really did support me and really took care of me. But I would say most of them just said, like, why are you calling me my first name? You're too young. You can't do this.
Right.
And definitely, man. I mean, I had so many struggles, but I think what helped me push through it is, to your point, it was always around the mission. Like I always said, like, if not me, who? Because I kept watching, to your point, to not name names either. And a lot of those people are my friends now. I used to hate their
Right.
guts when I started this, but because I was younger, and I still
Right.
kind of do. But I collaborate with a lot of them now, so I probably should say that. But I think the key is,
That's so
like, I
funny.
was watching all of their videos, to your point,
Right.
and I was literally saying in my basement, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, it was
Right.
just like how can you be a communication expert and
Right.
not be
Right.
excited about what you're sharing? It made absolutely zero sense to me.
Right.
Yet they had hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I was like, I could beat these clowns. Like, what are you
Right.
talking about? Like, I
Right.
actually give a shit about people. So that's what
That's
fueled me and
so
kept me
funny.
going. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so is this something you think, like, where are you going from here? Like, is this something that you want to continue doing, being an influencer and doing this kind of work? And you said you also do clients. So I also want to touch on that, but let's touch on the influencing part first. Is this something now that you're seeing this momentum in your life and you're seeing your content is growing, right? And it's probably getting even better as you go, right? Do you think this is something you want to keep on doing? You think you see yourself as a long game?
Oh yeah, I quit my job just to do this full time. Absolutely,
Okay.
this is the long game. But I think what would be fun for you is kind of like the question that you're probably curious about, which is like, what happened? How was I able to exit and take this
Yeah.
seriously? So essentially, what happened, Nina, was I was like 9 months into MasterTalk. I thought it was a really stupid idea. I was making videos in my mom's basement, and then I went to Summit of Greatness. This is Lewis Howes's live event in
Oh,
Columbus.
he's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. He has basically an annual event in the middle of nowhere in his hometown. So I went there because I wanted to meet him. I'm a big fan of his, and I met my business partner there. And he's the one who said, you can charge executives thousands of dollars for coaching, right? And I looked at him and I said, what are you talking about? Like, no one's gonna pay me. I was charging like $50 an hour at the time or something,
Right.
because I didn't care, right? I was making YouTube videos for fun. And he said, no, I think you can coach executives thousands of dollars. And I'm like, no. And he said, yeah, here, I'll be your first client. And I said, what? And that he's the one
Wow.
who gave me that initial spark. So after I signed, I got really big on Clubhouse a year after that. Just coincidentally, I was super early on that platform. That's what grew the YouTube channel, actually, because I was stuck at like 5,000 subscribers for like years until Clubhouse happened for me. So basically, after that, what happened is I started racking up a ton of technology clients, technology executive clients, because a lot of them from my community specifically, and people whose second
Right.
language is English. So me and a lot of immigrants, basically, I started working with them because they weren't able to get into vice president at their company without communication. So I developed
Mhm.
strong niche there, and I started getting a ton of referrals, and that's how I was able to exit corporate. But
That's
now
great.
I'm in a position. Back to your point, what's the vision now? Now my vision is like, yeah, sure, I'm looking to grow the business, but for me, the big vision is I want to be the next Dale Carnegie. Like, I think what's interesting is like Dale lived in an era where he couldn't be on a podcast. He
Right.
couldn't share information about communication. Whereas me, I have an opportunity to unlock every human being's potential. Like the
Mhm.
next Elon Musk needs me. And I don't know who that person is, but I need
Right.
to make sure that my content becomes so famous that that person finds me. In the same
Right.
way that I found Lewis, whether they hire me or not for coaching is not the deal, is that they learn from my YouTube videos and become exceptional communicators. And
Mhm.
that's really my big BHAG, my goal.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? And it's really wonderful too that somebody saw the potential in you and poured into you. That is so important, right? I mean, because it takes a village to do this kind of work. Yeah,
100%.
it really, really does. So, was there a video or a content that you put together that you saw really kind of pushed you forward and said, "Okay, people are hungry for this"? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, definitely. I got super lucky with one of the videos, Nina. Like you, I'm very straight talk. I never like to
Yeah.
flip. Oh yeah, I'm like this person. No. So yeah, the video was 3 daily public speaking exercises. That video made my channel. So before
Wow.
that, I mean, my channel was getting like, I don't know, maybe 100, 200 subscribers a month. But then after like a year and a half of being consistent, that video just popped. I think that video has like 350K views now or
Oh,
something.
that's wonderful.
And that's really what's still to this day is still driving a lot of my subscriber growth. So that was kind of my breakout video. But I think the advice I would give people, I mean, YouTube is not for everyone. You really
Right.
need to have a mission. I mean, when I started taking it seriously, I was investing 25% of my personal salary when I wasn't making that much money into
Hmm.
my best friend to make my videos professional. Like I don't make that stuff myself. I was
Right.
writing big checks to him, like 5-figure checks to make it happen. So you really need to care about the content versus the business. It's the only way to win on YouTube, in my opinion.
Did your mom have a heart attack when you told her you were leaving your job?
100.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
She's
yes
like,
and
you're
no.
doing what?
Yes and no, because you know it's fascinating. Because Indian mothers only understood one thing of my career, which was IBM. Like when they know like an Indian person's working at IBM, they go, "Oh my god, like my son has made it." So
Right.
yes, even today, by the way, my mom probably doesn't want me to say this, but it's kind of funny. Even my mom today, she still wears the IBM sweater, even if I've left that company a long time. It's a great company, but they're my clients. They're great. Like I have
Right.
nothing against. I always like to say that because people like to complain about their company. Look, IBM gave me a living. I wouldn't have been able to make MasterTalk work
Right.
without it.
Right.
But to your point, absolutely, my mom was petrified at me leaving my job. But here's the other piece, okay, that I think is really important is understanding, and this is what I think people don't do enough with their families as entrepreneurs, is understanding what's important to them,
Yeah.
right? And you know, like I see this all the time with guys, especially. So I'll call them out for a second. They always go like, "Oh, my spouse, my wife, my significant other doesn't support me." I was like, "Yeah, of course they don't support. You don't make any money."
Right.
Like they're thinking about their children. Like prove it. Like make some
Right.
money. If you're making
So
half a
funny.
million dollars a year, trust me, your spouse ain't gonna be complaining about anything.
Right. Right.
Okay,
That's
right?
so true.
It's like what do people expect? Like people just expect people to react a certain way versus like how can I be the person that
Yeah.
people want to be around? Like taking
Yeah.
extreme ownership. So I did the same thing with my mom. Before I quit corporate, because I'm the only breadwinner in my family, I
Hmm.
was taking a ton of risk. Not anymore because my sister works and we're fine now. But at the
Yeah.
time, so I had to prove the receipts. I had replaced 50% of my income and I had saved an 8-month emergency fund before I even dared to quit IBM.
Right. Right.
And I built a super solid relationship just in case I screwed up.
Yeah. Good
Right.
for
So
you.
I
Yeah.
gave like a 6-week notice. I had a strong relationship with the head of North America. So if shit hit the fan, I would get a job offer the next day.
Hmm. Hmm.
Luckily shit didn't hit the fan, but my mom was super happy with that, and obviously now we're fine.
But what was that moment for you where you actually said, "Okay, this is what I want to do"? Because you were in a job where you could have grown exponentially, right?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, you could have been way up there, and you started young. So what was that point where you said, this is not corporate is not for me, or this is really not for me? Was that scary for you? Were you like, what am I gonna do? Like, what was that? What was that moment that why?
I mean, that's the right question to ask. 1000%. Like my goal if you had talked to me when I was 20 and we were buddies in university, Nina, and you were just like, "So, Brendan, what do you want to do in life?" I would have literally told you entrepreneurship's for losers who can't get 6-figure jobs,
Right.
like for like losers. Right. And by
Right.
the way, I still think most people shouldn't be I don't think they're for losers because I am one now, so that would
Right.
make me a loser. But I definitely think most people shouldn't be entrepreneurs. But having said that, my goal was super clear: work at McKinsey, work at IBM, get into a
Yeah.
big management consulting firm, be a partner, make $500,000 plus equity, and live the rest of my life in wealth. That was
Right.
my goal, and I was on track to doing all of that because I was one
Right.
of the youngest people there. I would have become an executive by the age of 28. I had everything lined up. And because I'd done all these case competitions, like nobody could compete with at the company. I was like 10 times more efficient than the average employee.
Right. Right.
But what happened, Nina, was I asked myself a deeper question that most people don't at my age, which is what's the point of life?
Mm.
Right? What's the point of this game? Why am I doing this? So after I'd retired my mom, I just asked myself a more important question, which is, okay, what if I had $1 billion? What would I do with my time?
Right.
And I got stuck. And then I read this book called Thirst by Scott Harrison, who's the CEO of Charity Water. He's a big hero of mine. And he had a great quote in the book that I'll always remember for the rest of my life. And the quote was, "The goal is not to live forever, but rather create something that will." And I asked myself a hard question.
Wow.
Am I really creating something that's going to live forever? With
Hmm.
MasterTalk on my lap, right? Because it kind of
Hmm.
fell on my lap accident. And then when I realized that the answer was no, I started to weigh in my options. What do I want my legacy to be? And I realized the most important thing about life that most of us don't realize until we're dead is that it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account.
Right.
Time is way more valuable than money.
Right.
Even if you have $1 billion, you can't buy your time back. Whereas your time is your most valuable asset. And I realized I was a time billionaire. So I had two options. Either I try MasterTalk and attempt to change the world in a meaningful way, because I
Mhm.
realized I was the youngest communication coach on earth who was generous enough to share this shit for free and help the world. Or do I spend my 20s grinding at IBM and thinking about MasterTalk in the back mirror? And I made that decision last year, and I eventually decided to quit corporate and do this full time. And I don't regret it. I make more money now, and I've done well. But I think the key is the reason it was challenging for me, Nina, wasn't about money. It wasn't about time. It was about identity. I had to give up
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
person I used to be to become an entrepreneur, and that was the hardest decision I ever made in my life, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too, and especially so
Yeah,
young, because most of us do this in our 50s and 60s, right? Where we finally go, what am I doing with my life, right? Like I've climbed the corporate ladder, here I am, six figures, woo woo, now what?
now
Right?
what?
Yeah, but you did this now in your 20s. So you're going to be exponentially ahead of a lot of us, right? Which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so, do you find that what you're doing now in this space, do you think that you're going to expand into other things that you're really interested in? Or do you think communication is really like where you want to live?
Absolutely, definitely the second. I think what I've learned, and this is as a principle to teach the group as well, Nina. One thing that's really helped me in my life is not just listening to mentors, listening to people that are older, but
Mhm.
really feeling the pain of their mistakes. So
Mhm.
I think a lot of us, what
Mhm.
we do, and there's a common adage in this in the music business, where every music band does the same thing. They get really famous, they get high off coke, and they do a bunch of bad stuff, sleep around, do all these mistakes. Then they break up, and then
Mhm.
after they come back together for a redemption concert. It's like always the same thing.
Yeah, it's so true.
It's always the same thing. And I'm
Right.
always thinking about this in my mind, and I'm just like, aren't you like learning? Like, if people who are like, this is my mentality always. If someone who's double my age is sincerely trying to say something to me and help me and give me
Right.
advice, whether I agree with them or not is not the point. I should probably listen to them, because why would
Yeah.
they waste their time talking to me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with Lewis as an example. He's obviously not 50, but in his 40s, close to 40 now. I always ask myself, like, let me feel the pain of his mistakes for a second. Well, do
Yeah.
I want to be in multiple relationships like this? Do I want to make these mistakes in my business? And because I did that, I did something that's very unique to me that very few people my age can do, which is I skipped the line. I
Yeah.
said, you know
Yeah.
what? You're probably right. That probably
Right.
makes sense. Let me not
Right.
question it and just skip over it. And that's how I got the success so quickly.
Yeah, but that's called maturity, right, Brendan? Because it sounds to me like you're also skipping the line in maturity as well. Because I have children your age. I have a 33-year-old, I have a 28-year-old, right? So, and they do stupid things sometimes. Now, and I'm like that I just told you not to do that, and but it's like, okay, learn yourself. But I love that. That's like that is really mature. And what I love about that is you're saying I don't need to experience all of that heartache to get ahead. I can actually just not have it and still get ahead. So smart, so smart. Now you need to be teaching that too. One day you got to teach that too to all of us young people out here who don't listen, because I think that's a wise thing to share as well as you're teaching the communication. I think something about a mindset too when you're young like that. You know what? Skip the line. Skip the line because you don't have a lot of time. I'm telling you, I'm 50. You don't have a lot of time. It goes like this, right? I mean, you're probably even looking at yourself now going, wow, I'm 20, what, 26? Like this, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And let me push the analogy even further. I live my life, Nina, as if I've already died. So what does that
Mm,
mean? That means Viktor Frankl says it much better than I do. He says, "Live your life as if you messed up the first time and you get a second chance."
that is so damn good.
So literally the
Love that.
wife that I've never been married to, that I've never met in my life, that's not my girlfriend, has already divorced me. I've already lost half of my money. I'm I'm sad, alone in my mother's basement. None of these things have happened, but I feel the pain of Jeff Bezos. I feel the pain of Elon Musk, and I go, you know what? I'd
I'm
rather
not
keep
doing
half
that
the
shit.
money. Yeah, I'd rather keep all of it. I'd rather marry someone that I'd be comfortable.
Oh
Right? It's kind of like let's jump in. This is fun, right? It's kind of like men, right? They like a lot of us were curated as men to seek for youth and fertility. That's basically how our mind works
my God. Yeah.
biologically. Whereas in my mind, it's like, okay, guys, like you should be looking for qualities. Do you want kids? If the answer is yes, the number one quality is, will this person make a good mother? Yes or no. Most of
Right.
the time, it's no. It's like, you know what I mean? And the other
Oh
piece,
my
I mean, we
gosh.
could rant about this all day. Is the ultimate kind of quote that I think symbolizes all of this, which is understanding who the real enemy is. Right?
Mm,
Most people think our enemy is like our stepmother, or like the
right.
person who cuts us off in
Right.
traffic, or like the person who smirks at us at work. Whereas the truth is that the enemy is always, and we all have the same one, it's time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what your background is, what your ethnicity is, where you grew up, what your wealth is. You're always fighting against time, and you don't
Yep.
know how much time you have
Yep.
left. The
Yep.
the clock is always ticking.
That's
So,
right.
regardless of whether you're emotionally healed, whether you're not, whether you believe in this, whether you believe in not, the clock is still ticking. So, what are you going
Hmm.
to do
Hmm.
about it?
Hmm.
Except, I think the difference between me and everyone else is I realized that, and I said, "Oh yeah, the clock's ticking regardless. So let's figure this shit out pronto, and get to the truth."
Right. I love you. All right. You're an amazing human. Like, honestly, Brenden, you're an amazing human. I already really, really enjoyed, watching your videos and your energy and who you were. You just come out as very authentic. But then this conversation just made me love you even more. So if you see a lot of likes happening and all that great stuff, that's me. Um, just liking everything. But I'm really, really proud of you. I really am, as like I said, as a mom from, with adult children who are doing really well. I really like your mindset. I like, how you are, who you are, and how you come through. So thank you for being on this show with me and really pouring into my audience. I truly am grateful and I appreciate you very much.
Hey,
Very
I
much.
appreciate you just the same, Nina.
Thank you.
I do all of the ton of these interviews, and very few people actually get what I do, why I do it, why it's important, and you're definitely one of those people. So thank you, Nina. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me,
Yeah,
truly.
no, thank you for doing it. Thank you for doing it. I love it. So before I let you go, as you know the drill, I need you to drop all of your social media handles and all that great stuff so people can really follow you, like love you like I do. So go ahead, give it to us.
You're the best. The love is mutual, by the way. You rock.
Thank
You're
you.
awesome. So I would say two ways to keep in touch. Number one is definitely the YouTube channel. Just go to MasterTalk in one word. You'll have access to all these videos for free. And then the second way, for those of you who are interested in coaching, just attend one of my free live Zoom calls. So I do one on communication every few weeks, and you can register for that at rockstarcommunicator.com.
Of course. Of course. Brenden, you're the best. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. And guys, you heard it. So rockstarcommunicator.com, right?
You got it.
rockstarcommunicator.com, and make sure that you go and look at Master Talk. I'm not kidding you guys when I tell you that this guy is the real deal. Super, super fun. Really will teach you a lot of things. And I know that a lot of you are always reaching out about wanting to be public speakers and wanting to do motivational talks. Well, you know what? Go ahead and watch his content because you're going to learn a hell of a lot. And I'm super, super excited that he was on here with us today. So make sure you go ahead and follow him. I'm going to link all of his stuff below anyway, so you can go ahead and do that. And then make sure you like, share, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk. No sugar added. Until next time.
This broadcast is brought to you by Winject Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.